So we are back again with another exciting series on cloud computing for all the great learners out there. So this training will majorly focus on how to work with AWS cloud and its services. So as you have seen our previous trainings, right, where the core agenda is to introduce everyone what is cloud computing, what it is, significance, the opportunities around it, what job roles you can land on this, right? So this series will also focus on the same thing, right? So our main agenda is to give you an extensive training on AWS cloud, which involve all the core services and components, okay, how you can use them or architect them the services, right? And also how you can use different tools and scenarios and incorporate in your daily life, right? So maybe in your job roles, wherever you need these services, or if you're going to onboard on a new project, especially cloud specific, then you can use your skills which you have learned in this cloud over there, right? So here, when you work with or when you get this training from Quick Skills, you get a extensively great practice using the hands-on cloud lab, and you already know Quick Skills is already doing really great in providing a guided labs. Okay, so that is the best part of being Quick Skills. So when you are working or taking training with Quick Skills, we follow a dual model where you have classes with a lead trainer and a hands-on trainer, right? So the hands-on practice is very much huge, right? Also, when you're working with this, you need to test your knowledge with practice sets, assessments. You have a lot of tests which help you to overall evaluate your performance, right? Also, let's say we are suppose delivering the training on AWS, right? So at the same time, we'll try to compare the services which are there in Azure or GCP. So that at some point of time, if someone asks you a comparative study between the cloud providers and the services, you're able to do it. So that is also one of the benefits which we try to deliver as a part of this training, right? Also, along with the hands-on labs, your assessments, you're offered with cloud mini projects, right? And the use case of these cloud mini projects is that when you are trying to use or trying to deploy those projects by leveraging your skills which you have learned as a part of the training, you get a holistic view that how these services are integrated and working together, right? So to get that confidence boost for any interviews or when you are working on those services, okay, this hands-on stuff is very important, right? So assignments, career activities, master classes, along with hands-on is the overall combination which you get with Quick Skills Cloud Training Program, right? Also, the trainers which you see over here, they are not just trainers, they are solution architects working, or they have a huge experience over data centers, cloud native technologies. They have even deployed those projects by themselves. So they are bringing those rich experience to you, and which is formulating, or let's say, which is bringing a very huge practical knowledge to you. So if you are getting this training, you are being into this training, which means you are into right hands, into safe hands, which will not just make you job ready, sorry, you will which will not make you just certification ready, but you will also be job ready, right? So if you're facing an interview, you can just make use of those real time scenarios which have been given as a part of training, and you can use them for answering those interview questions, cracking or implementing them over jobs, right? So there is a lot of mentorship, career guidance which you will be getting throughout this learning, and it will be stitched in a form of story so that it is easier for you to understand, right? So lots of learning coming in place, right? So along with this, when you're working with this cloud training program, I will specifically define our training methods, right? Where you have live online classes where we have our lead trainer class, okay, and a follow-up trainer class, right? Right? And which is in turn followed by your hands-on lab practice. So let's say today I am taking a session on VPC, right? So whatever theory topics or whatever hands-on I am showing you, okay, next day, very next day, a hands-on trainer or the lab trainer will be there, and you will be using the quick skills guided labs, which are very intense from a beginner, intermediate to expert level, and you can use them from doing the hands-on, right? So it's an overall bundle which you get when you're associated with quick skills on any of the cloud training program which are with us, right? So it's more of building knowledge and you are building it for real, right? So that was an overall introduction. And the trainer about me, my name is Abhimanyu Arya, and we are delivering. In fact, all the trainer who are here, they are very skilled, very experienced, they have huge exposure towards cloud, okay, and they try to give as much as knowledge as much as possible, right? So that is this our guarantee that you are in safer hands. And this journey on learning the cloud computing program on any cloud provider, whether it is AWS, Azure, and soon we're launching GCP as well. So it would be very interesting, as well as it is a fun to learn model. Right, everyone? Fair enough. So I think my screen is already shared with you, right? So now I think it's time to start the learning. Right, everyone? So let's move further. Right. So if we talk about in our daily life, right? So since we are into a digital era or in a digital world where everything is interconnected, right? And we are so much active onto our phones, mobiles, tablet, offices, laptops, everywhere we are so active, right? So if we talk about that 60 seconds, that what happens in that 60 second, especially when you are using internet, okay? So if you talk about that figures, right? So if you talk about Instagram, around 902,000 photos are shared, right? If you talk about Netflix, around 452,000 hours are being streamed, and that is all in 60 seconds, right? If you talk about YouTube, 694,000 hours of content being uploaded. So those YouTubers which you see out there who was creating shorts, videos, everything, okay, they are continuously uploading the data over the internet. So if we talk about 60 seconds throughout the globe, you get that number where this amount of content or this amount of streaming is being uploaded over there. And if you talk about snapshot, around 2 million snaps are being sent across the world, right? And which is very huge, right? We are just taking a 60-second calculation for this, right, everyone? And this is not the end, right? Since when the introduction of 5G, the new evolution in the networking, and we are getting huge bandwidth, and the new applications which are consuming a lot of data, right? So this model or these things would be increasing every year, right? So 90% of the world's data has been created in last 2 years only, right? Because earlier, if you talk about Instagram, earlier was Facebook, right? You do have data over there, but it's still, if you see the way the social media or the connectivity platform, how they are increasing or how they are going ahead in terms of data, that is very huge. So that increment is something which has come in recent years only. Right? It is not something which has happened 5 to 10 years. So it is an era of change, right? So we are all connected into a hyper connected world of internet, right? And when we say hyper connected internet, what it means? Let's say today you want to order food, you will be going to Zomato, right? You just put your address, the location would be automatically fetched. You just select what you want to eat, and that would be successfully ordered. And maybe in whatever the time is there, in 30 minutes, your food will be at your home, right? You want to have a mobile recharge, you can just go to Paytm. You want to do electricity recharge, you can go to Paytm. You want to pay something as a digital money, you can use Phone Pay and Paytm, correct? You want to watch something, a content, you can just go to Netflix. You want to book a cab or you want to book a flight, you can go to Uber and Make My Trip respectively. If you want to look for a job, you can go to LinkedIn. Okay. If you want to order something by the e-commerce platform, you can go to Amazon, Flipkart. So many providers are there. And if you want to be associated, want to have a social presence throughout the globe, Twitter is the right platform for you. Right, everyone? So in this hyper-connected world, everything is stitched together using internet. And I'm pretty much afraid that if this internet is not there, okay, what will be our life actually? What will be our life? Correct? So once you are working with in such scenarios, okay, you should be pretty much clear that we are into a hyper connected world, and everything which you are using that is kind of generating the data. Right, everyone? So moving further, so it's a digital age which is enabled by many tools and technologies, and we talk about many tools and technologies like computers, you have internet, okay, you have mobiles, you have a lot of services which are there, right? Softwares which are being deployed on the mobiles, you have programming languages, right? Because ultimately the codes which you're writing, codes you're driving, that all written in a form of softwares or programming language, because our computers understand programming language, right? Although computers understand machine languages, but this programming language, when they are being sent as a code or as an instruction, okay, the interpreter and compiler, they convert into those binary numbers which a computer understand, right? So that is always the case, but these programming languages are helping us to provide those instructions, right, everyone? And that is the beauty of this digital age, that we are so much close to this and we can effectively make use of these things. But this is not the end, right? This was a very initial phase. Maybe earlier time as well, we were making use of these things, right? But nowadays, what has brought a lot of change over here is your machine learning, right? Your social media platforms, right? You have data engineering, okay, where you are capturing data from all the resources, trying to analyze it via your AI and ML stuff, okay, and you're making very meaningful reductions, okay, which can be good for your businesses, which can be good for the country, which can be good for the overall economic growth of the business as well as the organizations, right, everyone? Also, with cloud computing, you have made the things, or you have made those things much more easier, because you don't have to worry about the overall capex which you were planning to invest when you were using your on-prem data centers, right? So those things have been made so much easy when you are using cloud computing, right? And along with this, AI, which is intelligence, which is a very big umbrella, okay, in which you are using all the services, okay, trying to automate them and make things more intelligent around us, right? So as I already told you, this is a lot of things which is making this digital journey or digital era. But here in this course, we have come to learn about cloud computing, right? So we would be focusing and learning about cloud computing over here, okay? And that is what is our main agenda, right, everyone? So let's take a step back, right? Right. So let's say if we watch a movie nowadays, or let's say we watch a movie earlier, there are different ways we used to do it, right? But the one way which I remember is you had a DVD driver or a CD recorder at your home, okay? DVD player or CD player, and you had those disk drive in which you used to get those movies from the market, or you purchase them or order them, and you put them over there and you play those contents, right? Even if we talk about the traditions of the culture, people used to capture those moments into these CD drives and DVD drives, okay, so that they can watch them at a later stage, right? So this is how we used to do it, right? But nowadays, if you want to watch a movie, right? If you want to watch a movie, what is the next thing you do? Once the introduction of cloud is there, you watch them on Netflix, Prime Video. You have so many OTT platforms which you use, right? Correct? Now, when we move towards your storage and recovery, right? Earlier, when cloud was not there, right, you used to have CD drives, you have memory cards, pen drive, you use them for saving your data, right? And you try to make multiple copies of it, right? But nowadays, right, what do? You put all your images, fun content over Google Drive. Even Google Drive is also using AI stuff and giving you, let's say that, okay, 1 year back this happened, 2 years back this happened. They are bringing you those memories back, and they are using those all the AI stuff for doing it for you, right? And and they are also providing security to you. It is not that they are compromising your security, they are leaking those data. They are providing you along with the security of Google, right, everyone? Correct. So when we are talking about this cloud computing, okay, there are a lot of things, a lot of assumptions are there, right? Correct, that what is actually cloud computing? We usually say that, okay, we'll be running some machine or a virtual machine over the cloud, right? That is kind of things I have heard. In fact, you have also heard already, because now we are all participating as a part of this training, but you have already known that, okay, this is already come in, and we are now moving towards cloud, right? So when we talk about that, okay, we will be creating our servers on the cloud, okay, but ultimately what it is, there is no cloud, right? It is just someone else's computer, right? It is not just a cloud, it is someone else's computer. And the reason when we say someone else's computers, that makes it really tough, right? That how are we bringing someone else's computer at home? Okay, how it is teaching, right? We talk about stories. Is it a real story? No, right? If we talk about the machines who were there in a digital stage, right? If we talk about the memories which are there in the digital stage, you use your computers, right? You used your computers where computers were doing all the tasks, right? So you have to go to a bit of basics, understand about your computer fundamentals, okay? And then we can see how those things are working, because directly jumping onto the cloud computing will not make sense, right? Because this course which we have designed is for all the audience, whether it is a person who is starting from scratch or the person who is an experienced professional. So we try to stitch this story from scratch. So if we come to the computer fundamentals, okay, so this machine which is known as a, it's a computer, right? Correct. So if we talk about your computer fundamentals, what is a computer, right? What is a computer? So you have a machine which you see over here, right? You have your monitor, you have desktop, you have a lot of services which are there, right? Correct. Also, when we talk about this computer and these services, okay, this is everywhere. Computer is everywhere, and just what we have to do, we have to understand the definition that what this computer is actually doing for us, right? So when we talk about this definition, what computer is doing, so computer is an electronic device that can perform various operations according to the instruction provided by a user or a program, right? The instructions which are provided by a user or a program. And when I said the computer is everywhere, okay, so you have your mobile phones, okay, you have your tablets, you have laptops, right? Those desktops are there. So in any which way or in any form, the computer will definitely be around you. Either you'll be using for your official purpose, you'll be using your mobiles, okay, you will be using maybe going to a cyber cafe earlier, if you're going to some offices, right? You have those services or those devices around you, right? So usually what happens, you think that mobile is not a computer, right? So your mobile itself, we talk about your mobile itself is also a computer, because it's have a hardware, it has an operating system, just like we have Windows as an operating system, correct? Similarly, you have purchased a phone from Apple and the operating system is iOS. Or if you have purchased a phone from OnePlus, okay, and the operating system is Android OS, right? So everywhere there is computer, and your phone also behaves as a computer because it is capable. I'm repeating it, it is capable of doing all the things which you are expecting from your computer. Earlier, if I remember that in my early stages when I was using desktop, I used to have 256 MB of RAM. I used to have 256 MB of RAM, right? But nowadays, when I'm working with this, right, on my phone, I have a 16 GB of RAM, right? That is huge. I used to have 256 GB on my, sorry, 256 MB on my desktop, and now I am using 16 GB on my RAM. So, how nanotechnologies have evolved where they have shrinked everything into small thing, and we are getting that in our mobiles, right, everyone? Correct? So, if we talk about your components of a computer, okay, it is made up of software. So, software is something which is referred to set of instructions or a program, okay. Or if you talk about an operating system is also a software. So, this software is something which you cannot physically touch, right? And the other component is hardware, okay, which you can definitely physically touch. You can move it from here to there, okay. So, the box or the CPU which you see, okay, or which you have seen in the previous image, this is something which is carrying all the details, right? So it is something which is can be physically touched and manipulated as well, right? So if you want, at some point of time you want to upgrade your hard disk, you can just remove the internal hard disk and upgrade it with a higher one. If you want to upgrade the RAM, you can just go ahead and remove that and upgrade it to a higher RAM as well, right, everyone? So that is something which is also possible. Your hardware components we talk about, they have lot of hardware components in place. You have keyboards, okay, keyboard, my mouse, microphone, okay, webcam. These are all input devices, right? Trackball, these are all input devices. Touch screen, these are all input devices which you have. Correct? Output devices can be monitors, printers, speakers which are around you. They are all your output devices which are part of your computer systems, right? But main thing which is doing the processing is your central processing unit, right? So your input device gives the input. Let's say you give an input from the keyboard. You gave certain commands that okay, run command or compile command or open youtube.com, and the instructions are going to your motherboard or the CPU where an application, let's say a Mozilla Firefox is installed, correct? Then the central processing unit will have some control plane messages, some logical messages, some data will be saved in the memory unit. Okay, they will do the all the processing, right, for that application to work. And then when you let's say initiate any transactions, let's say you wanted to play a video, you can see that a video is playing onto your monitor. So it's an overall architecture where you have input device, output device, you have a central processing unit which makes or which you use for working. Right, everyone? Correct? So when you are working with this, let's say you have to understand that how this computer is actually working, right? The computer system works by, let's say, combining input storage, your storage processing units, your outputs, all those things are there, right? So you're just like you have the previous diagram of a central processing unit. Similarly, you gave an input, you processed it. Okay, there may be some transactions which you did with the storage as well, and then you generated the output for this. Right, everyone? Correct? Then you generated the output for this. So you should be understanding what your computer or how your computer is working, right? Now, further moving towards with the cloud computing basics, right? Further moving with your cloud computing basics. And in this cloud computing basics, what we are doing, right? What we are doing, it is basically you have to set an understanding, right? Just like we have said in the previous slide that it is someone else's computer, right? But you should have a understanding that this cloud is something which is not located in the sky, right? But it is something which is a facility which is hosted at a location. It is a physical facility which is there, right? Which you can call as a cloud data centers, right? Where you are placing all the data, all the networking component, physical devices you place over there, and then you make that data center, correct? And that is what your cloud DC is, correct? So if we talk about this cloud data center, okay, this cloud data center will look like something like this. You have all your physical racks being there. They are all connected on the top with these wires. You have cooling, you have a lot of connectivity, you have security systems where they are coming with the iCards badges. They are a perimeter boundary or a perimeter of everything where it is fully secure that no one is coming and touching those labs, right? Correct. And if you see this facility from a drone or from a far location, this is spread across acres of land, right? This is spread across acres of land where you have built the entire, and this is one of the images which you're seeing from the Google data center, correct? This is something which is there as a which is a Google data center which you see, and this is spread across in acres of land, right, everyone? So if we come across this, there is one word which you see, on premise, right? You talk about on premise. Okay, so there is a comparison or a comparison you should be aware about that when you talk about your on-premise data centers, okay, what they actually are, right? So an on-premise data center is something which is owned by the organizations and located within the business premises. Okay, it is located within the business premises, which means that obviously you will want the servers to be sitting close to you because there will be developer teams, your inside network teams will be sitting there who will be managing that data center, and more close you are, okay, the latency would be less, right? more close you are, the latency would be very, very, very less. And that is what the idea behind this, correct? Here you have a lot of collection of servers, hardware, storage, and networking equipment, okay, that is totally owned and controlled by an individual organization, right? So you are the one which is controlling this, correct? So when you are working with this facility, okay, what they are doing, they are making sure, or when you create this on-prem facility, you have to always make sure all the capital expenditure which you do for procuring these servers, these racks, you also need to maintain the cooling system. You're procuring the WAN links. You need to have a facility. You have to pay a lot of rent for this, right? It is not coming for free. So you invest a huge amount of capex, okay, for this. And along with this, when you are, let's say, you are running a business for, let's say, for 5 years, right? And you're building a lot of application, okay, you need your in-house team for managing these services as well. You should have a networking team, you should have a firewall team, you should have a wintel team, you should have a database team, you should be having let's say security guards for securing this, okay, you should have a virtualization team who is taking care of everything, right? So those teams, those skills you need for managing this overall data center which you have brought in, right? But what cloud offers you, what cloud offers you so cloud computing gives you the ability to rent computing resources on demand, right? Ability to rent computing resources on demand. You have your network components, you have compute, you have storages, right? You have shared pool of configured computing resources, which means when you use this word as shared pool, what does a shared means? Okay. So let's say you were using or you were deploying resources on on-prem data center. So that was owned by you, right? You was the dedicated, you had your own dedicated setup, right? But let's say if a server is sitting over there in the cloud, who is owning it? It is AWS or the public cloud provider is owning it, right? So when you are using such kind of services, okay, when you are using it, what you're actually doing, you have one physical server. Let's say, assuming we're taking example as one, and let's say one organization is Nestle, one organization is Unilever, one is British American Tobacco, one is RBS. They plan to create a VM, right? So it is not that if RBS is deploying resources on the cloud, they will get the entire physical server dedicated to them. No, that is possible to do when you get a dedicated host, but it is not that if you're creating a normal virtual machine, that entire server goes to RBS. That rack will only have RBS. So that is something which is not working as a shared model, right? Although there are some customized things we can do when we want to achieve that, especially for the banking customers, right? But usually the resources which are deployed over there, whether it is networking components, firewall, security, storage, compute, everything is shared. So if you create a VM, there will be a physical server, right? There will be a physical server, and on that physical server, what you do, you will be putting all your resources, right? So on that physical server, there can be a VM which is created by, let's say, Nestle. It can be created by RBS, can be there for, let's say, Unilever, British American Tobacco. A lot of customers can create the VM on the same place, right, everyone? So those things are shared. That is not dedicated for you, but yes, there is a lot of flexibility and a lot of scalability, high availability which you get. Okay, and you are working on pay as you go model. So let's say today you ran a VM, and let's say you don't like it and your business is not ready. You need some more time. You can just terminate the VM, okay, and your billing is stopped, okay, for whatever duration you run the VM, you're just paying for it. And let's say if you have done the same thing on your on-prem data center, since the servers, you will keeping the scalability in mind, you will be getting a bigger server, okay, so you have already invested a huge amount in developing that server, developing the skill to virtualize that, creating a VM or multiple VMs. And now if you take a step back that okay, I need more time, your investment is already done, right? Your investment is already done. So you have to, when you are working with this, you have to very intelligently, okay, make sure how you work with these things, right? So there are a lot of resources which you have in cloud computing, right? So cloud computing resources in computing resources in cloud computing are, you have virtual machines, correct? You have unlimited storage. When you're getting over here, you have databases, okay? You have queues in case you are building a messaging solution, okay? You have content delivery network. Let's say you are building a delivery network for Netflix, because content delivery network is usually used for OTT platforms, right? They use the content delivery network. So if you are them, then you use them, or use those content delivery. And then is a batch processing job. So batch processing job is, let's say you need a job, or let's say there are 10 events to be done at a time, or 10 activities to be done at a time. What you do, you can run 10 different containers or 10 different jobs, okay, on either multiple VMs or on a Kubernetes cluster, and you can run those batch services and get the individual output. So mark my words, batch processing is when you are running those multiple things, every instance is running individually, and the output which has been generated from that batch is given back to the originator, or who is running those batches. So you get the output to the source system who was running this, right? So those kind of services you can also run over here, correct? A lot of options, a lot of things are there when you're working with cloud computing, right, everyone? And the best part with this is, let's say if you're working with cloud computing, you always think about the benefits of it, right? So what are the benefits of cloud computing? So if we talk about benefits of cloud computing, first is on demand. Just like I already gave you an example, that at some point of time you want to go away. You don't want to, let's say, keep on sticking to whatever you're running. You need some more time for development. You can just terminate it and then you can use it, right? So you have an option where you can run resources on your demand, correct? You can run resources on your demand, okay? Now let's say if you want to access the resources, right? You want to take a remote session, you want to work on something, okay? Those resources are sitting on the cloud, right? You all know those resources are sitting on the cloud. And when these resources are sitting on cloud, what happens? You are taking a remote access to that machines. You take a remote session of that machine. So when you take a remote session, so which means you can access that device anywhere. Okay, you can access the device anywhere, and you don't need any kind of hardware on the data center, because all the capital expenditure, all everything is done by the cloud providers. Okay, and depending upon your requirement, okay, let's say today you want a laptop. What you do, you go to the market, you go to Amazon, you purchase a i3 laptop, right? Now you've got it, but somehow let's say you were running an application, let's say Corel Draw, or let's say Photoshop, okay, or let's say you wanted to use your machine as a gaming PC, which requires a very huge RAM and very good processing GPU. And at this point of time, if you want to change your laptop when you have already procured it, it will not be done, right? Even though it is not sufficing your requirement, you have to use it, okay? You cannot do anything with it. But if you think at some point of time that I am looking for a machine which should be highly competent, which means today I was having 4 vCPU, but now I'm thinking of 10 vCPU or even 60 vCPU or 128 vCPU. I can definitely go to that machine. I can definitely go to that machine and resize it. So that kind of flexibility to achieve the performance, that is there, right? That is there. If you are working on a cloud computing, they have multiple data centers, right? So if you're thinking of high availability, that okay, in case of any impact or downtime, how my business will run. So you are deploying your applications, or the cloud is taking care of that resiliency, that in case in any of the services go down, okay, do you have a backup data center available for you to use, right? Backup data center available for you to use, correct? Also, there is one thing which is known as multi-tenancy, right? When you talk about multi-tenancy, you can host application which can be available into your multiple availability zones. So by any chance, if one of the availability zone goes down, so availability zone is basically a data center. We'll talk about detail in what is in availability zones. Okay, but as of now, this is a introduction or a intro session, correct? So I will not be going deep dive into that, but we will be going in deep dive. What is a multi-AZ? How you're deploying application over there? If you want to deploy a application multi-region, means in two different regions, how you can do that? All those things we'll be discussing further, right? Also, AWS has a very big marketplace, right? So when I talk about marketplace is something where you can have anything whatever is available on the AWS, right? So let's say you plan to run Cisco SD-WAN or Meraki SD-WAN or Silver Peak SD-WAN. You don't have to worry about this. You don't have to worry that how will I be bringing the operating system, whether this is working or not. So on AWS Marketplace, right, you have a lot of vendors who have uploaded their images, right, and they have their own cloud guard images or let's say firewall, checkpoint firewalls. Lot of firewalls all have kept their operating system images over there, and they are keep on updating them with the feature set. So if you are planning to deploy the resources onto the cloud and you're looking something which is vendor specific features, what you can do, you can just use the cloud, select the whatever requirement you have for a cloud image and start using it. So once we move further, we will be doing the hands-on for this as well. Okay, I'll show you how you can do this. Fair enough? So vendor specific features that you will also be getting over here, right? Now we talk about the major cloud providers in the cloud computing. Okay, right? So what are they? Those? So you have Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Alibaba, Oracle Cloud. Okay, those are the major providers, and the new providers which are upcoming in the market, they are IBM, HP, Digital Machine. You have VMware, OpenStack, Huawei Cloud. So these are the new upcoming providers which are there, and they are very quickly enhancing their cloud spread, right? They're enhancing their cloud spread. So if you want to compare that, okay, what services I was running at that time or what services I am running now, in both the cases, you should be pretty much aware that, okay, if whichever cloud I follow, every cloud has their own presence and you should be aware about that. So if we take a capture that, okay, if we see that who all have adopted cloud, let's say AWS cloud. So if we go to the pie chart of that, you will see April to June 2023, the market capture of AWS is 32%. For Microsoft Azure is 23%. For Google Cloud is 11%. And all the remaining cloud providers are sitting as a part of 34%. Right? Correct? They're all part of 34%. So now, when you talk about this cloud market share or all these things, these take a lot of time, right? Take a time. But there is always a question which comes everyone's mind, right? What actually enhanced or what actually increased in the growth of the cloud? Why everyone now wants to move to the cloud, right? So if we talk about the major region, this is something which is being what we call it is something which is initiated or rigorously uh, sorry regressively it is adopted at the time or after the COVID when things were really impacted, right? So the pandemic was the growth of the cloud, right? Which you can include your COVID-19. You can talk about remote work where people were working remotely and they did not have the option to go to office. Okay, and with the enhance in the technologies, you cannot bring every technology to your on-premise data center. You can do the testing and effectively use it. You are getting on the marketplace. Everything is tested either by the service provider, vendor, or the OEM. OEM stands for original equipment provider. Sorry, original equipment manufacturer, right? So with the increased technologies and the increased demand, you're able to fight or cover that huge opportunity, right, everyone? So that is the benefit which you get, correct? So if we think about or if we think that what it is actually providing me or what it is actually offering me, okay, there are a lot of what we say dilemma in the market that When this cloud will be taking place, or when cloud will be working, what will be the overall expected growth in the jobs, right? So whether jobs are expected to decline or whether they will be increasing, right? So the survey which has been done by various agencies, it has been found that comparative to the jobs which were there in 2020 to 2023, they have been increased from 41 million to 90 million, where 1 millions are in privacy interest, 6 million in cyber security, 20 million data analysts in machine learning, and 23 million in cloud and data roles. So if you see, software development was already there, right? But now 23 million jobs are seen in cloud and data roles, which is huge, right? Which is huge. And there are a lot of career paths which are available with you, which you can adopt, right? So if we talk about the career paths which are available over there, the career paths available are cloud administrator, okay, where you can administer all the services which are there on the cloud, okay. You can maintain them. You can, if you are working as a infrastructure engineer, all the VPC, virtual machines, transit gateway, subnetting, DNS, everything is controlled by you. You are the one taking care of this. If we talk about the cloud engineer, okay, there's a diverse role where usually the cloud managers or engineers, they focus on the deployment or delivery of things, right? But cloud engineers are also into the exact platform engineering which evaluate, let's say if we are into a migration rule, the cloud engineer will evaluate everything and provide that how to implement the overall solution, okay, right? But one step ahead, okay, or one step ahead is a cloud consultant or a cloud architect, where they will be designing the solution and the cloud consultant will be giving you the consulting in that, right? So these cloud consultant and architect are very close. One is focusing on the architecting of the solution, and next is helping in architecture as well as the implementation of the entire stuff. That is the difference which you get, correct? And then the people who are working specifically on the data, you have a cloud data architect role, right, which is there, or cloud data scientist role is there, in which you are working on AI and ML stuff, right? And that AI and ML stuff is helping you to actually receive the data and do all the analysis using your AI and ML tools and give the meaningful information either in the Power BI or any other tool which is being used by your organization, right? Also further, when all these applications are working, right, so there should be a support team, just like you have operations team nowadays. There is a support team which is there, and that support team is mainly troubleshooting, okay, issues where you are assisting customers or you are assisting your in life teams or the networking teams, okay, that why this service is not working. If something is or something broken between, they are the one who are the first place responsible, and they make sure that things are working fine, okay. Else they have to escalate the service to the next level. Now, we all have the services exposed to the cloud, right? We have services exposed to the cloud. So those services are something where cloud security analyst, right, where they will be building the entire portfolio. That, let's say you have built any application, but let's say that is a web application, so securing them due to, let's say, DDoS services by, let's say, guard duty or guardrails, or if you are planning to restrict the services where you are using your WAF integrations, or when you have to implement the network ACLs, okay, that is something which your security analyst is taking care of, right? Also, as I mentioned, cloud engineer is a professional who designs and maintains the overall organizational cloud services. And you have a automation, which you can refer to the people who are in DevOps team or an SRE team. They are a part of cloud automation engineer, okay, who are trying to bring automation to the system. So there are multiple ways of deploying resources, right? There are multiple ways of deploying resources. One is via GUI, other is via CLI, and one is via your API, which means automation or a programmatic access. Correct? So when you're deploying things via code, maybe Terraform scripts, JSON scripts, Python, that is the task of your automation engineer. And this is the things which DevOps engineer or other people do. Right? So these are the major cloud roles which are there. Okay. And further, if we talk about the salary packages which are there, okay, the expectation salary expectation which you get is around 3 point lakhs to 9 lakhs, which is offered initially. But if you have worked extensively on projects, you can scale up to 15 lakhs to 24 lakhs, okay, in the cloud native roles, right, everyone? And which is not less. So if you have very less experience, but you have good exposure on project, you have good negotiation skills, okay, and you are working on the latest skills, then obviously you can get that package, right? So ultimately, we are all working for upskilling as well as for our bread and butter. So try to upskill in something which can earn you a higher package, right? Now we'll be concluding it over here. We'll be just coming after a break, and then we will be starting with your core components of cloud computing.